Hi, I'm Jo Pybus. I'm Research Facilitator at BACP, and today I'm going to demonstrate how to use the commit system. I'm going to do a demonstration on the test site, which is something that you can have access to yourselves should you wish to familiarise yourself with commit before using it for real, with real clients. I've already just logged into the system, and what you'll see when you do log in is this user acceptance policy, which you need to make sure that you agree to. And then this is now the test site. Once you have your own login for the real site, in terms of data protection and security, you will only see clients, your own clients. You'll not be able to see anybody else who's logged into the system, even within your own service. You'll have your own unique login and you'll see your own clients only. So this is what you're presented with when you log in. You can see these are all the individual client names. You can see there's a lot of this is a test site. So there's a lot of made up names here. I'm there as a client, and the assigned practitioner in this case is me because I've logged in with my own address. So what I'm going to do is run through as though I'm entering data for a new client. And with commit, the general rule is that every time you enter new information, there's a tab on the left-hand side of the screen just here. So here it says add client. We're going to click that. And I'm going to make up a name, and that name is going to be Paula Mason. I've just made that up. I'm going to give Paula a date of birth of the 8th of July 1998. And we'll say that's done. And what you'll see is you have these little asterisks here, and these are fields in which it's mandatory to enter data onto the commit system. You don't have to enter real data here if you don't want to, you just have to enter something. And what we've been advising people who are already using the system is the information sharing agreement that we ask you to sign before we grant you access to the system does protect you for entering real data here. If you do want to use commit as a client management system, you're perfectly entitled to do that, and the clients will be giving you permission to do that through the informed consent that we require you to obtain. But you can enter dummy data here. You can enter a unique ID for the client, you can enter your own name, you can enter initials, you can enter whatever you want, but something has to be entered. In terms of date of birth, obviously I've entered a full date of birth here. For data protection, what we might ask you to do is enter the first of the month, and then that just anonymises it and helps ensure that we can't identify these clients with this personal information. You can ignore the fields that says NHS ID and service allocated patient ID. Again, once you've been granted access to the system, I will give you a 3 or 4 digit unique code, which will tell me the type of service that you work in, so whether you're a school-based counsellor or in the voluntary setting, or whether you work with in an online format. It will tell me the individual service that you work in, and also you as an individual practitioner. So there'll be at least 3 digits, it may be a few more. What I would ask you to do is to enter those digits. I'm just going to pretend that that's 456. And then after that, you would enter a unique ID for the client, which may be what you already use in your system. It could be a combination of numbers and letters. Here I'm just going to say that this client has that unique code. And then any data that's entered into commit, when it's exported from the system anonymously, this is the code that will be used to identify that client to make sure all the records are all linked up together. So we submit that. And then you have to enter any other mandatory fields in this system here. So the partner, in your case, will be British Association for Counselling and Psychotherapy. We have the name, surname, date of birth, the code. We ask for you to indicate whether the gender of the client. Sorry, I've said male, but I've called them Paula, so it ought to be female. And although it's not mandatory here, ethnicity is something that we would like you to record if you have consent from the client for that. And there's a number of options there. This field here for portal access, if you just tick no, this is about whether clients are being granted their own login details for commit. For the purposes of our work, we're not using that system, but it is something that commit does have the function to do, and is something we may explore in the future, but for now just tick no. All the other fields, if you want to enter information, that's entirely up to you. If it's going to be useful for your system, that's absolutely fine, but it's not something that we're going to be requesting. So I'm going to save this information about this client now. This will take me back to the home screen, and you can see that Paula's at the bottom here. You can sort by alphabetically or by surname. So we've got Paula Mason here. Now, when I want to enter some information about Paula, so she's now on the system, and now Paula's come along for her first session, and I want to view this client to enter some further information. So we can see she's 16 years old, she's female, she's white British. You can edit these details if you need to. And then up the top here, you can see we have the profile, which is the information we've just entered, period of contact, and this relates to a contracted period of counselling. So, the client comes in for the first assessment, and then it may be for up to 10 sessions or whatever is usual within your service. Every time, you should only have to enter this information once for each client, unless there's a large break in between sessions for whatever reason, or they end the counselling and then come back again, then it would be a new period of contact. But in most situations, you would just add one. So I'm going to go through and see what the information is requested here. So this was period of contact 1, as I said, but you can have up to 10. Assign team ID. We're actually going to say no here. We're not going to assign a team ID. And for the purposes of this study, we're using Cork Plus, which I'm not going to explain now, but it's just a tick of a box. The start date, we're going to say that this has started today and the case is open. The end date we can leave blank because we don't know yet. The case is not closed. And this section here, consent obtained to flow personally identifiable information for non-identifiable reporting. This is a really important mandatory field. Basically, what this is asking for is, have you obtained informed consent from your client for their data to be used anonymously for research purposes? If you haven't obtained that informed consent, you must tick no. If you have obtained that informed consent, then you would tick yes, and then that is data that then is available to BACP, and we will be using that for research purposes as part of this study. If you tick no, we'll remove any data for that client before we do any analysis. There's lots of other fields here. This is the thing that you'll find about the commit system, is there's lots and lots of fields of areas where you can enter information, but you don't have to. A referral source type, who have they been referred by? That could be useful. But a lot of this are things that we won't be asking for. Whether they have problems with home, family, school, again, could be useful information. One thing that we would find useful is to know whether they're a looked after child or not. I'm going to say no in this case. Young carer status, all of these things. If you know any of this information, if it's useful to you, please record it. Now, this goal field here, I believe this may be moving to another area shortly. This relates to the goal-based outcome measure, which is in the toolkit, which I will have sent you as one of our recommended measures. If you choose to use this measure, then in the first session you need to complete this part of commit now. So you describe what the goals are that Paula and you have discussed together and agreed on. So it may be get along better with family, and you only have to enter this once, and then you rate the goals later on. So we're just going to have the one goal for now to save on a bit of time, and then we save that information. So now Paula is all set up on the system, and then from now on it's just entering information for each new session. And the language here is an event. So it's although we're talking about a session of counselling, we're talking about an event. So Paula has come along for her first session. We've entered all that information, and then we're back over to the left here to add some new information about the event. So we're in period of contact 1, which is what we've just set up, and the event has taken place again today, and the event time, which came in at 10 o'clock. Right. 10 o'clock. And the session lasted for 50 minutes, and please enter that in minutes. We had a direct face-to-face contact, and this was her first therapy session. So you could enter this as an assessment or a follow-up, but mostly it's going to be during therapy. And the location, now we know that not every setting is listed here currently. This is a mandatory field, but it's not something that we're going to be using personally for this study. So don't worry too much if your particular setting isn't here. You can just enter other. And the location, again, you just enter whatever is the closest to where you are working. You don't have to enter whether the appointment has been attended on time or whether they were late. Again, you can if you wish to. And then there's a lot of information here that we don't require. You just scroll through all of that. What we would like you to record is the type of intervention that you have delivered during that session. There's a whole list here: interpersonal therapy, CBT, all the way down, psychodynamic, psychoanalytic. We have counselling down the bottom. I'm going to select counselling for today. You can tick more than one. So if you've done counselling and a bit of creative therapies within the same session, that's useful for us to know. So you can enter multiple options. And then you can see that we have the goal that we set before, so to get along better with family. In this first session, Paula is rated on the paper-based form that she doesn't think she's doing very well with that at the moment. And that was completed by herself. So we record her score on that goal. And then we save that. And that's the basic information for that session entered. And then we're on to the outcome measures. So really we're talking about the SDQ and the YP core, or the core 10, depending on the age of the client you're working with. Again, there's guidance in the toolkit on which measures to use and which are appropriate for which age groups. There's a whole host of measures here, and you are welcome to use as many of them as you like. They are here for your use. One thing that would be useful for you to record is this current view, and this is where we gather some information about the presenting issues for why the young person has come to counselling in the first place. So to enter information about a measure, you click Add. You just make sure that these details are correct. It's a clinician form, the current view, so it's been completed by me as the practitioner. And this is at their first assessment. And then for each of these options, you just select which areas you think Paula is demonstrating any difficulties. And there is guidance on using the current view that is available on the CYP-PRN website. It's not currently in the toolkit, something that we need to add in that, but there is a booklet specifically for the current view, so you can understand what is meant by each of these categories. I'm not going to complete all of these now, so I'm going to cancel that. We have had some feedback from people that the current view seems a bit medicalised, but it's what's being used within CYP IAPT CAM services, and it's really useful for us to have that direct comparison about the types of issues that young people are presenting with, along with their level of severity as measured on specific measures. So these are in alphabetical order, sorry. So what I'm going to do is just demonstrate the YP core, which is right at the bottom here. So we click Add for the YP core, and this has to be used alongside the paper-based measure. So you'll see here that the items aren't the full items as you would see on the measure. So in your toolkit you have the full measure. The young person will have completed a paper-based measure in the session, and then you enter their responses onto here. So I'm just going to click some random responses for now. And then you save. So for each new session, once you find your client in the client list at the beginning, you see, sorry, this will pop up to say if you've missed an item, so it won't let you not to complete something. There's a couple here that I've failed to select, so let me just do that again. And the questionnaire has been successfully saved. So now for Paula, we have her score, and actually when you scroll right down to the bottom of all the measures, you can see the session date, the time, the measure that was completed, and the score that she obtained. And then you can go back in and view that. A really useful feature, which will be functioning from the spring 2015, is the statistics tab. So once a measure is completed more than once, obviously I've only completed it once here anyway, then you can bring up what would be a graph of the scores, session by session scores. And you'll be able to keep track of that, and you can print that as well. So that can be a really useful therapeutic tool. So I'm just going to go back into my client list now, because that's all you need to complete on the commit system. So once you've got a client on the system, so we've got Paula, we find Paula in our list, and you can actually, if you use the filters here, you can actually search for individual clients. You don't have to scroll through the list by either a reference number, a surname, the service allocated patient ID, or your own name as practitioner. And we find Paula in the list. And then we want to enter, we enter a new event. So obviously we have that first event, and the things that were completed, the forms that were completed. We add a new event, so you go through that information again. Enter a new one, always create a contact one. And then you can enter new outcome measures, and you just make sure that it relates to the correct session, the correct event. Let's say I wanted to add the YP core. Here, obviously, I've only got event 1, but you would have a list of all dates of new events that you've selected, so you select the one that goes with that session. And that is it. So I hope you found it a useful demonstration. It's quite a simple system to use. And if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with myself. You can email in at research@bacp.co.uk. Thank you very much.